Welcome to Reactor.
We are recording, and we got rid of that stupid echo.
Oh my god, we've started this show 7 times. It's so annoying.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so you were talking us through the stats. So what is our listener stats right now?
Okay, on the podcast side, it's fairly similar. We're at 37 subscribers. I think the peak was 42. It goes up when I put out a video, or when I put out a new podcast.
What? I will put it out a podcast. Okay.
Yeah, put out a new one, so it shows up on people's feeds. Maybe that bumps us up to the top of some discovery mechanism in iTunes, although we shouldn't be very discoverable
Does
there
listens
yet.
mean a full listen?
There's no way of knowing.
Okay.
But on YouTube, we know how much they listen to.
All right.
And a typical YouTube video on my other channel gets about 5 minutes of listening.
Okay.
And my friends who run similar businesses get a bit less than that. So there will be a few people that stick around for the whole thing, but generally it's
so what does Reactor get
small percentage
on the videos?
I'm not sure yet. I haven't looked at that. So anyway, when I put one new one out, we get some more subscribers, and then they tend to dwindle after that. So not a big surprise, but we'll see how it continues. See if we just dwindle to nothing over the next month, or if it goes up. On YouTube, we've doubled to 4 subscribers now.
No way. 2 to 4. That's awesome.
And we have a friendly comment on this one. Somebody said, "Awesome video. You deserve more subscribers." So we'll see whether
that has to be spam.
Whether if that happens, I don't think so. So that other one you said you thought was spam, I looked, and that user has been commenting on Alchemist Camp videos.
Well, what's so strange is, I mean, I've been doing texting for 10 years or whatever, and we have never had a comment like that. Like, the comment is always about, something you were speaking about, like specific. No one's ever said, "Hey, great audio, guys."
I have gotten comments like that on my blog, and those always were spam. When someone's like, "This is fantastic content," or "I love this site," just recommended it to my 3 friends. Those are always spammers. On YouTube, it's a little different because Google kind of does a lot of spam filtering for you. Like, I've got another category that says likely spam, and if I look in those, it generally is spam. We don't have enough traffic to be getting any of those yet, but we'll see what happens.
Okay.
So, looks like our average view duration is 17 minutes. That's actually way more than I expected.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
So that's good to know. But anyway, hopefully the masterminds are useful for us, though, independently of the rest. If nobody listens, I can spend less time editing them, but still.
Yeah, I do think it should be as little of work, a little effort. I mean, basically, it should not wanting to sound too cavalier, but it should bring value to us. I mean, the reason why we're doing it is mainly as like our personal mastermind and accountability. Yeah,
and then just increasing the luck surface area a little bit.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
How's the week going for you?
Well, very good.
Excuse me.
My 2 goals that I had was stick to the eating plan, and then my other goal was get the rest of the UI stuff done. I did stick to the eating plan, and we can get into the detail of that in a bit. And the UI stuff, I didn't get very much done. I probably only got 2 hours to work on on Taskflow. So, but I've got some done. I've got something to show you. So, yeah.
All right. Let's see. Exercise, I've done pretty well. It's great.
Cool.
It's great not having to wear the mask. So I've been, got out, went jogging 3 times this week. Did some body weight exercises 2 other days. So that has been good. My other stuff has been seriously derailed, though, by coronavirus related stuff that I'll get into. not me, but just this is the worst time to be a digital nomad. I'll just say that for now and then return to it maybe. Let me just go through the rest of the progress and then go back to it. So let's see. Build the analytics sites, marketing pages with Tailwind. I got some good progress there, but it's not done. More work on Reactor site. I did get, I did start migrating from live view 0.8 to 0.9, and I didn't get everything working. So that's still in progress. One good thing that happened, though, is I've gotten more new Alchemist Camp subscribers in the last week than any other when I haven't run a promotion that I can remember.
That's because everyone's on lockdown.
As in paid subscribers. Maybe, I don't know.
Paid subscribers. I think everyone's on lockdown. I mean, I've noticed that I've just been contacted by a lot of people who haven't been contacted by, and that's within the last week, because I don't know what it's like for you over there, but in the US, like it's just complete lockdown. Like it's complete.
So what
madness.
does lockdown mean? Like, are you like under home quarantine or?
Basically, that everyone is social distancing. So everyone has been asked. Everyone has been asked to stay at home, and to only go out if you absolutely need groceries or something like that. Oh, and by the way, I mean all the shops. It's just crazy. Like, have you seen the pictures of this? What's going on in the shops?
I've seen pictures of other places, but I haven't seen.
It's just like empty shelves. Like, so everyone has been absolutely panic buying. So you want to go in and buy just toilet roll or whatever. And it's weird, like, they've taken all the stuff like pasta, toilet roll, toilet towel, rice. But, like, all the stuff like fresh vegetables, They
just ignore it, yeah.
So the kind of... basically anything healthy is kind of... So, like, plant-based meats. No one's taken any. It's like... So it's the whole supermarket, empty shelves, but it's got plant-based meats
there. How about the real junk food frozen dinners?
Oh, yeah. All gone. I mean, it's just crazy. Okay. It's just crazy, yeah. But it works great for me because I'm on a just eating fresh produce track.
so maybe that's a factor for me getting more subscribers. When did all this start for you?
Well, we're just coming into week. This is the end of the first week. So
okay. Yeah. So, learning goals. I did learn a bit of Git. I didn't put a ton of time into it, but I did about half an hour earlier in the week. Did not get notifications built, and I didn't write this down as a goal, but I did get us closer to caught up on publishing these masterminds. So coronavirus was also at the root of some of my frustrations, or my kind of panic almost, I would say, and that is because, somewhat unsurprisingly, Taiwan has started struggling a little bit more recently with it. As of a week and a half ago, despite being right off the coast of China and having millions of people go back and forth between Taiwan and the mainland every year, and exclusion from the WHO and all kinds of other disadvantages, Taiwan only had under 50 total cases and no local transmission. However, in the past couple weeks, it's been getting worse because now it's basically because the rest of the world has it. So there was some news a few days ago. There were 10 new cases. Someone went on a tour in Egypt, tour group in Austria. Someone went to Iceland with 7 friends and came back with it. There were 75th case in Taiwan was in his 20s. He visited Germany on his own. A couple of women visited Paris. Like, it's basically it's lots of people, not necessarily foreigners, but some foreigners and a lot of Taiwanese people that were going to Europe last month or the very beginning of this month. So now, according to worldometers.info/coronavirus, which is a site I've been looking at a lot, Now Taiwan is all the way up to 100 cases, and about half of that has been in the last week and a half. So over the past week, there've been all kinds of new travel notices. Like Taiwan had they'll publish. They've got like categories: one, just safe; two, which is like not so safe, and then three, which is seriously dangerous. They've just reclassified like 40 countries to category 3, and it's been this one says 20, but it's basically been every day for the last 4 or 5 days. It's like, well, now we're also counting this country and 3 U.S. states, and I'm sure like soon it would be the entire U.S.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Sorry, I was just
okay. So I think because you're a little behind us, but the pattern is lockdown and everyone panic buying. So you are in a good situation because you're ahead of the curve. I definitely think that you should go and do that buying, and not, even though I think it's a ridiculous.
Well, hang on to the rest of the updates though. So because as of today, the Chinese warplanes approaching. That was a different story. As of today, Taiwan has barred foreign nationals from arrival. As in, this started 38 minutes ago at midnight. So unless you have a resident visa, or you're a citizen, or you're a diplomat, or some kind of emergency medical person, you can't enter Taiwan. So after the next 2 months, basically, I will not be able to do a visa run. So there's
okay. Well, just going back to what I was saying, you should probably straight after this show go out and just stock up with all food, just because that's what's going to happen. They're going to shut it down the same as they've shut it down here. There's going to be panic buying, and you're not going to be able to get anything from the shops.
I think Taiwan's in a very different situation. First of all, its first case here was much earlier than in the U.S. And second, every single case is tracked, and there's extensive testing, whereas the U.S., I believe, was testing like 6 people a day or something like that.
Oh, so you don't think that there's going to be a shutdown?
I would be very surprised. Like if you look at what the numbers have been in South Korea, like there was this huge early outbreak in South Korea, but it has been it's still continuing, but the number of new cases is decreasing in South Korea, and that's largely because they have been very good about testing anyone where there's any kind of concern, and tracking mobile phones, and there are quarantines. Actually, Taiwan has also been doing this. Like when I got back, even more than a month ago, or about a month ago, I had to wear a mask anytime I wasn't at home for 14 days. And they have cameras, and there are there's mobile phone tracking. So some people could violate this, and some did, and spread to someone else. But then they got tracked down and fined. And now the standard is anyone coming into Taiwan, which is soon just going to be mostly nationals, gets quarantined at home for 2 weeks. And if they have a temperature or anything like that, then they get immediate medical attention. So I don't think Taiwan's going to have the same kind of Taiwan is worlds more competent at dealing with this than anyone else in Asia has been, let alone the U.S. Okay. But what's going to happen for me personally? So I'm not worried about most people here, to be honest. I think this is about the safest place. But I will have to leave in 2 months, which is probably about when the U.S. will be the most strained.
Why would you have to leave in 2 months?
Oh, because I'm not a Taiwanese citizen and I don't have a long-term residence here. I'm not.
Oh, so you mean you're coming home for good then?
Not for. I mean, I'll be back to Taiwan sometime. I'm sure.
I
This
mean,
is
you know what I mean? Like, you're coming home for, like, you're not just going to come here and then go back there straight away. You're coming back and you're going to be in America for like, some amount of months or maybe a year or
so.
something.
What I've been hustling to do this past week is to try to get a long-term visa where I can stay, and there are some government supported and a few non-government supported incubators for entrepreneurs that are able to fast track entrepreneur visas. And I just got an offer from one of them yesterday to basically they were super impressed with Alchemist Camp despite the low revenue. They thought it was great that I had done like the tech and the marketing and all of that on my own. And they're going to help me with the process. However, it's not certain as possible because of this new rule that came out today that makes that completely bars foreigners without a resident permit from re-entering. Normally,
Okay.
like if you leave from a visitor landing stamp or just a landing stamp with no visa, if you enter that way, you have to leave and re-enter on a visa in order to get a resident visa. It's just some bureaucratic thing. But I don't know. So I think it's honestly it's about a 50-50 shot. And if I have to leave, one is, do I go someplace like Korea that's nearby, inexpensive enough, and dealing with it pretty well, or go to Japan, or do I go back to the U.S. and try to find someplace that's affordable and also like not at my old family's place where my 80-year-old grandmother lives and my very overweight 60-something uncle is, because if I go back there, that means I'm on a long haul flight and then through 3 crowded airports, and that I think that would be kind of an unacceptable risk for them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that makes sense.
it's really it's really kind of a mad scramble to figure out what my backup plan is, and also to get plan A to work too. Like I've been poring over the requirements and talking to people and like I'm going to be hustling to fill out paperwork and things like that.
Yeah. Well, sounds like you got a tough road ahead. I mean, obviously the work that we're doing here is important. You want to try and build that revenue as quickly as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
So where are you at with your projects?
As I said, let's see. Yeah, as I said, Alchemist Camp is doing well in terms of new subscribers. I haven't put out any new paid videos in a while, but I'm gonna continue making sure I keep doing that because that's the main source of revenue.
So what's the revenue now then?
It's still 1,300 and something MRR, but
okay, yeah.
But the monthly cash flow is more like 2,000. So
because people are coming in and buying like 1 year in advance kind of thing.
Some people are. It's
Yeah.
I think it's about 2/3 monthly, 1/3 annual, something like that.
Yeah, I mean those annual figures like definitely should be included in your reporting of the figure because they're a real fact. So 2,000 a month is, I mean, that's good. That's great. So it's not what you want, but it's something.
It's getting there. Yeah, yeah. So I feel fairly confident about that. Unfortunately the marketing pages for the new site are not totally done, but I've got I've got Tailwind integrated and I've got post CSS and all the other requirements for Tailwind, and I've gotten started on it at least.
So just I'll try and keep it brief, but I'll just do a quick update on the diet thing.
Oh yeah,
which I'm calling the chop diet.
The chop diet.
Because it's just you chopping stuff, basically chopping veggies.
You're chopping the glucose chop.
Yeah. So I'll just quickly show you the. So what? This was my. Wait, that was February 13th. So February 20th. This is sort of where I was at before, sort of 10% in range here. So this is my overall stats. My average glucose was 243. So this is like 8 days from Feb 13th to February.
So that's up a bit.
So no, this is previous. This is past old data.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm just sort of setting the foundation for what I'm about to explain. So so this is where I was, and then the last time I spoke to you was let's see, it was. So I'm not going to show this week. I'm going to show the week before. So that was from the 5th to the 12th, I believe.
The 4th, I think. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Approximately. So. Yeah, so this was approximately where I was at. So then I was 86% in range on that first week of being on the chop diet. And then now the last 7 days, 91% in range.
Wow, and the average dropped too. It was like 167, now it's 158.
Yeah, 158, yeah. So it's working pretty well, and I'm going to start tracking my weight as well. And my weigh-in today was 217. So... let's just sort of see how that goes. Hopefully that drops by a pound every week. And, yeah.
It would be really cool is if you could just make a simple text file that explains what your chop diet is, how it works, and then we can share that.
Well, I was thinking about that. I mean, I would really like... what would be really cool would be for some other people to have a go at it. But I think I should just do it a bit more to just... sort of validate it a bit more, maybe a couple more,
or maybe just share it with me because I'm curious.
Okay, share it with you.
Yeah, because if you share it with everyone, there'll be someone that'll be like, "Bell peppers, you idiot! Why are you eating those?"
Right. Okay.
Because it's the internet.
Yeah. So I won't stick on that one too long. So then I'll just go to the work that I've been doing on Taskflow. So like I said, I guess I've had like 2 to 3 hours to work on it, maybe even 4 now that I think about it. But I'm a bit like fastidious when it comes to things like sort of effects that happen and things. So I've spent some time making sure that the pointer, the hand shows at exactly the right place here. That as you hover over it, highlights in exactly the way that I want it to, and that the same thing works in the light mode in exactly the way that I want it, and that all this stuff works. And then I started working on the kind of the now screen. So you can see here's the icon lineup. None of these work. And then the last piece that I've just been working on is just the beginning of this view. So here is the title, but I can click in there and I can edit it, and I just want it to be super easy.
You do like a little dotted.
And so I want to be able to use and
dotted line circling of the active part.
Fast keys to be able to easily move around stuff, and so that I can hit not right now it doesn't work, but I'll be able to hit Shift Enter here, and then it's going to add a new one so that it's super quick to move around the page with short keys.
Shift Enter to add a new task.
Yeah, and then this I also want to make it like unrestricted so that even though it's a subject, you could make it like multi-line like that, and same goes for these. And I want to pay special attention to making it like you were just saying. Atom being bloated or different things. I want it to have like that absolutely instant feedback to just feel really, really responsive.
Yeah, that's huge.
So so that's sort of where I'm at with that. The next one is going to be doing the main text area and then the ingredient rankings, and then I'll go in and add shortcut keys and things, and I'll move this, and then I'll move on to the next screens. So hopefully by next week, I'll have this one done. And maybe this next wins one, which will then mean these 3. So yeah.
I think shortcut keys are pretty underrated. Like they seem to be kind of like an afterthought until it's $1 billion company. Then they like add all the stuff. But I really like if it's on a desktop. Like I really like to be able to keyboard control as much as I can.
I mean, the goal is to make this better than a big ass text file. So I want it to, enhance productivity as a scratch pad, which is what the big ass text file is, and then along with all the other aspects of, picking good tasks and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my update.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
All right.
Yeah, I've been thinking about doing keyboard shortcuts for Alchemist Camp too.
Well, but it's a bit different there because, I guess it if people are really into it, then that could be a great reason to use it. But it's a bit different in the kind of tool that it is. It's not really like, for example, I didn't do keyboard shortcuts on Nugget,
Right. Well, I think that would be cool too. Like next lesson, previous lesson.
I guess it's true, but that doesn't seem as high priority to me as a tool that is your sort of daily scratch pad,
Yeah,
tool,
yeah, for sure.
So yeah.
So mental model.
Go on then. You do.
All right.
Screen share.
Oh, okay. Well, so this is not one that I've come up with myself, which is good because there are a lot of interesting things other people come up with, but I've been kind of watching Nassim Taleb's Twitter recently. He's been on a tear. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's a guy that wrote Fooled by Randomness, Black Swan, Anti-Fragile. He's really, really smart guy. He's a very high in Big Five personality trait, disagreeableness, or it would be low agreeableness. Like he's very willing to say what he thinks, even if everyone else thinks something else. And he was kind of famous initially because he called the housing crisis in the mid-2000s when everyone else was saying it was fine. So he's been tweeting about that, which we will not speak of again this episode. But his second book, Black Swan, I think was it's a really great concept that helped me. When I first read it, I'd never heard of what a Black Swan event was. Maybe people didn't even talk about it back before the book, but the idea is people used to think that all swans were white, and there was no such thing as a black swan, and then eventually people saw a black swan, and he uses it to describe events that just fall outside of things that we understand. So one example could be a natural catastrophe, like the volcanic eruption that created the Yellowstone National Park crater, like that kind of thing, or like an asteroid hitting the planet. It can also be a positive thing, though, like the development, the ridiculously rapid development of information technology over the past 50 or 70 years could be considered a positive black swan.
Yeah.
In fact, Paul Graham wrote an essay called Black Swan Farming, where he was saying the ultimate vision, or the extreme vision of what something like Y Combinator could be, would be literally just investing to farm black swans. And if that were truly the strategy, then the failure rate should be like 90%. But he can't stomach that, neither would the other partners, because it's just depressing to have like a 90% failure rate of everyone you invest in and are close to. But it's like a 50% or 60%. So they're still definitely making all their money off of one big company each round. So the thing that's interesting about black swans, when looking at the negative ones, though, is preparing for catastrophes. By their nature, they're always going to be something bigger or different than what you've seen before. So like during the Fukushima meltdown, I don't know if you read about that. There was a big earthquake, really big earthquake, which caused a tidal wave and caused all kinds of things to fail. And the reactor, it actually withstood quite a bit, but it did melt down. And afterwards, people were saying, well, this was built to withstand the biggest earthquake or the biggest tidal wave that we've ever seen in this area.
Mm-hmm.
But what Taleb was saying in his book is that's a guaranteed way to fail when there's a black swan.
Yeah.
Because if you look at historical events, every single black swan is going to be bigger than anything people had seen before.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be a bigger impact.
Yeah. So his, I guess it's kind of hard to summarize a whole book into one little takeaway, but it seemed like the thrust of it, or at least what I took away from it, was he had this barbell strategy, as he calls it, where he'd put most of his money in very, very safe things, and then some percentage, like 10% or 15%, in extremely speculative things that could capture a positive black swan. So that would have been like all the stuff your friend Jason invested in, like Bitcoin and Tesla and Uber way back when.
He is the black swan magnet. Now, I do think that, I guess we can talk about that aspect of it because it's more interesting. You know, the coronavirus is obviously a financial black swan event. It's going to have a pretty big impact on the planet for sure. You can already see it, and I wonder where that's going to go. In some ways, I think that it could be good. I'm seeing some positive things about everyone being locked down and being at home for like a couple of months. And one of those positive things is, there's more online stuff happening. There's more online stuff, and I think that creates potential.
Yeah, and we may, technology. We may get some technology out of it too. But yeah, I think Taleb now he's tweeting about that. But I think his perspective in general had been mostly as an investor. It's like what can he do personally to optimize everything in his life.
Yeah.
So and the way this influenced me is it made me actually think more about negative health black swans and more about positive financial black swans. So, for example, after reading that book, I became much less interested in increasing my salary by 10% and much more interested in more speculative things that could have a much larger return later.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because like the worst that happens, depending, as long as it's set up in such a way that the worst you get is lose whatever you put in, and there's no limit on the upside, then it makes sense to like really kind of chase the black swans. Whereas with something like health, it's kind of the opposite because it's like the downside is catastrophic, but there's no like 1000x healthier thing.
But I can't remember the studies, but isn't there a number of studies that show that like the strategy that people who are like, I don't know, the world champions at whatever sport or what, the strategy that they use isn't through big gains, it's through incremental gains. So they just basically are very consistently incrementally better, and that's how they win championships. They don't use like a black swan type thinking.
English cycling team, I think that's where that came from. They improved lots of things by like 1% or something. I think that's true because that's a physical thing where you have your biological limitations, and they're all like pretty close to optimal, and there's no such, like, there is no positive black swan in basketball where you could like dunk from the half court line or something, right?
So following Nassim's concept, the best strategy would be to put 90% of your effort into gradual gains, like we're just discussing, and 10% of your effort into some kind of black swan.
Yeah, and a really, really key idea he had in his book is there's like the normal world and there's Extremistan. And extremistan is anything where you get these power distributions. And one of those things is wealth. Something where you don't get that, though, where you just get a normal distribution, would be height. You know, if some really tall person like Shaquille O'Neal or if Yao Ming walks into a room, it doesn't make the average height of the room super high. But if Bill Gates walks into a room, like the average wealth in the room is suddenly absurdly high.
Yeah.
So basically, if you're in extremistan, then you have to. It's worth really, really, really hunting for black swans, and investing would be one of those things.
I see. Okay.
Where your 80% or 90% really conservative part of your portfolio gives you the ability to be really extreme with the other percentage and not go insolvent.
Yeah. Cool. Black swans.
Yeah, I will put a link to the book.
Well, something I thought that was really cool was let's just do a share here. I just thought this was really cool and innovative, and it's a trend that I've sort of been paying attention to. Italian hospital saves COVID-19 patients by 3D printing valves.
Yeah.
And that is kind of cool. So they're sort of mass producing their own valves, and I think that's an interesting direction for society, and it always reminds me of Blade Runner. You know Blade Runner, that scene where he goes in and he's like he's sort of looking for different things, and he goes in and he speaks to the person who created the eyes. You know, I created your eyes. You know, like do you remember that scene?
Okay, I don't. I saw the movie a long time ago,
okay.
But I remember how Japanese the future was, and I remember the psychological test they're giving him to see if he's what was the word for like a fake human?
The void camp test.
It was like you see a turtle moving very slowly, like that.
But what was fascinating about that movie, which came out so long ago, is it essentially predicted this idea of like makers. So basically, makers, and it didn't say 3D printing, but essentially, the concept was that in small little cottage industry makers created things like this. So in this case, it was just this little cottage industry maker. He was the guy who created the eyes for the Nexus 6 androids.
Philip K. Dick had a lot of interesting stuff, I gotta say.
Yeah,
I've enjoyed several movies made from his books. The other thing, just one more thing quickly on this. The other thing I've thought about with 3D printing is when I was a teenager, we were all copying songs. We were all like downloading all the songs we wanted and copying them and sharing them with each other. And I think maybe when Jack is a teenager, or maybe a few years after that, teenagers are going to be like pirating burritos. They'll be like, oh, like someone stole the recipe for such and such a place's food, and then like download the file, and then use your Matter compiler or whatever your futuristic 3D printer is, and like print that.
Yeah, there's no good reason why you couldn't do 3D printing of food. I mean, I'm sure it's already done. Some people have already thought about it.
It's a lot harder. You need a very versatile printer, but I think given enough time, we're going to see amazing things printed.
This was interesting. Diabetes in mice cured rapidly using human cell technology.
I looked at that one too. Yeah.
Yeah. Just think that we're with CRISPR and all that stuff, we're moving in a very interesting direction. I mean, I guess it's too much of a big discussion to get into right now, but yeah.
What did you think? So here's one I'm curious about that I saw in Hacker News.
Yeah.
What do you think about how popular universal basic income is getting?
Well, it's interesting, and even on the front page of the news, like, the government's response, a very strong Republican response, which is quite hilarious, is they're going to send checks to everyone in America. We're going to send over $1,000 now, and we're going to send another check over $1,000. And so that's, I mean, that's going to make the general populace of America think, hey, wait a second, the government can send me money. That's awesome.
Well, they're good at. I mean, that is. I mean, if you watched Andrew Yang's campaign, I mean, one thing he liked to say over and over again is the government is really good at printing checks and sending them to people. Like, it may not be good at everything, but like that's something the government's got down.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting, and I think modern monetary theory, which I've been hearing a little bit about on the No Agenda show, which is basically the modern monetary theory. I can't say it the way that it is, but what it sounds to me like is, it's like, look, let's just not worry about underpinning the money and the gold standard and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's been going on for a long time. Yeah.
Let's just print money and just use it as we need, kind of thing, and just like, we just let's not stress about it. Essentially, I googled the modern monetary theory, but it sounds interesting. It sounds like it removes us from the shackles of stuff like the Fed and all that type of stuff. Modern monetary theory. Let's find it.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. It's I've thought that now I studied like half of an economics bachelor's degree before I switched, but I thought the general rationale for inflation was because if you don't have any inflation, or say you have deflation, then everyone will want to hold on to all of the currency they have as much as they possibly can, kind of like what's happened with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And then there's not much incentive to spend the money if it's your currency. Like if dollars were that way, there would be very little incentive to spend it. But when there is inflation, any wealthy person who has a whole bunch of money that's in currency has a really strong incentive to spend it before inflation reduces its value. So they want to be investing in businesses, and they want to be, consuming it, just whatever they're going to do with it. They want to circulate it around the economy.
Okay, so check this out. Modern monetary theory advocates. Modern monetary theory advocates argue that the government should use fiscal policy to achieve full employment, creating new money to fund government purchases. According to the advocates, the primary risk once the economy reaches full employment is inflation. And so basically the main tenets are that you can pay for goods, services, financial assets without a need to collect money in the form of taxes or debt issuance in advance of such purchases. So
Whoa.
That's kind of it's kind of
number 5. Does not need to compete with the private sector for scarce savings by issuing bonds. I'll have to dig into this. I'm not.
Yeah. So basically, these tenets challenge mainstream economics with the view that the government spending is funded by taxes and debt issuances. So it's an interesting concept that I think is worth exploring. I don't fully understand it, but what it sounds to me like is it's like you're letting go of the underpinning of the current financial system, and just sort of saying it's more like game credits. It's like game credits. It's like, okay, look, screw all that stuff. It's game credits. You've got credits. Just use them. Yeah.
Interesting. Is that podcast do they take a non-mainstream opinion on most things, do you think?
Yeah, they just try and find the truth, I think, is what it is.
Okay.
They've got some weird views, but they try and focus on the truth.
But they're not intentionally contrarian. They just happen to come up with different opinions a lot.
They might sound like they're intentionally contrarian, potentially, because basically they're called the Crackpot and Buzzkill as their nicknames. So John Dvorak, John Dvorak is kind of like a buzzkill because he's like he sort of is. Yeah, well, you say something, hey, isn't it great that such and such happened? He's like, yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, these are all the bad things
Really,
about it.
really okay.
Yeah.
I met his son in California when I was there, and his
Oh,
son's not
oh, he's not
same
what?
name, same name.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he's also John.
Mm.
His son didn't seem super negative to me. Like
He's
I had
not
a pretty
negative.
good
You
impression
kind
of
of
him.
have to listen to him. It's more
Oh, it's like
a curmudgeon rather than a negative. Do you know what I mean?
comical curmudgeon. Okay, I get it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
kind of like a radio personality then.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Interesting.
it's good. I find it good. But for example, I've played it to my wife and my mum, and they hate it. So it's just they're quite they make fun. They sort of make fun a lot which I find quite funny. But I guess my mum doesn't appreciate it that much. But the funny thing is they do say a lot of stuff that's in alignment with what my mum thinks, but she still just doesn't like the style.
Well, I generally value people that are contrarian or come up with interesting ideas I haven't thought of, as long as it's from some intellectual foundation and they're not just trying to disagree and get attention or something.
Well, the best thing about the No Agenda show is that because they've both been working in media for like 30 years, and they've been in lots of these sort of executive advertising meetings, and news stations, and they really understand the bullshit that the media, that the liberal media and that the Fox media. So a lot of people think, oh, Fox is just full of shit, but actually, the liberal media is also full of shit, and they're basically pointing that out in a very good way. Yeah.
Well, so I've held that opinion pretty much since I got back to the U.S. in late 2012, or I guess mid 2012. But I think you'd have to be utterly, completely blind to not see that most of the media is BS now, because it's just not even veiled. I think I read the most respected media source for Americans was the BBC.
Yeah, I mean it's
like people are just like, let me escape this entire squabble and see what people on the other side of the ocean think.
Well, I mean Bernie Sanders would have had a chance if the what Adam Curry and John Dvorak call the M5M, which is like the mainstream CNN.
Oh
MSNBC,
yeah.
And so basically those guys really do not want Bernie Sanders getting in, because he's going to tear the whole house down in a way that even Trump wouldn't. And so the bias of the reporting from those guys against Sanders has basically killed his campaign. So people must listen a little bit, because he was doing well until they got really scared that he was going to do well, and then they just trounced him.
Yeah. Well, I think the really extreme one was Andrew Yang. He was left off of graphics. People who had fewer, who were polling worse and raised less money were shown when he wasn't. Especially MSNBC, they called him, I think, John Yang or something. They intentionally got his name wrong. It was insane. And then after he dropped out, then it's everything's oh, okay. And then some of his ideas are sticking. So I think that's just gross. Politics is gross. The media is a little frustrating. So, I mean, what can you do other than read a lot from a lot of sources?
All right, so what are your goals for next show?
Okay, so this is totally a mess because of the whole immigration issue. So number one goal is do everything I can to try to get that visa. So I'm not going to be able to get it within a week. There's no way. But that's my number one focus. And I'm going to be talking with the person who runs the incubator that I met up with before. He's talking to some people in the government tomorrow, and I'm going to talk to him after that. So I'll at least have some idea.
Taipei, How do you spell type?
Taipei.
Taipei.
EI.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Yep.
EI.
Oops.
It's for Taiwan.
Okay.
Taiwan.
Oh, for Taiwan.
Yeah.
Taiwan.
TAIWAN. And
Okay.
not a working visa, entrepreneur visa.
Oh. Oh my God.
That's
You're
what
not
I mean.
going to try and spell entrepreneur.
Just you can abbreviate.
Okay.
Good enough.
We've one thing we've learned today is that I can't
spell corrector is well. That one's a hard one. But yeah, Google's got your back. So that's the biggest thing. And in parallel, I'm going to look at other possibilities. I probably won't get a job here, but I'm going to look at like what's my next best fallback. Like if things, if I find out tomorrow that it's impossible, or even if I don't find out it's impossible, I gotta have like a second plan. And then number 3 focus after that is.
Wait, what was the number 2?
Number 2 is a plan B or a plan Z. This is
what is it? Sorry, I think I wasn't listening. What is it?
A fallback plan in case everything fails and I have to sell all my stuff and get out in the next 60 days.
Okay, so you're talking. So the goal is to create a fallback plan.
Yeah. I have to. Yeah, I have to do something. I can't just, wait until the day I get kicked out and then lose all my stuff and not know where to go.
Okay.
Distant number 3 is work some more on the analytics site, and number 4 would be work on Alchemist Camp.
It's
instead
not really
of work,
a goal. It's not
okay,
really
you're
a
right,
goal
you're right.
to work on analytics site. Like a goal should have a deliverable.
Okay, work on the work.
Give us a specific thing that you want to get done on the analytics site. Just one small thing that you want to get done.
Yeah, I want to get API tokens. Set up a system for API tokens for people to have access to it. And then number 4, if I have time, is record a screencast for Alchemist Camp.
Okay. That is 4 goals that we can understand. Nice.
All right, thank you.
So I'm gonna do. So my first one is to. Let's see. I'm gonna. Okay. Keep. Percent. So blood sugar. Stay in range for 90% plus.
How much did you do this week?
Let me just see. I've forgotten.
Seemed like you're 91%.
91%.
Yeah.
So if I can keep that up, that's a good goal. Okay. So then Taskflow. What I really need to do is I really need to complete the now screen with all of the actual proper functionality, like keyboard shortcuts and so that the UI is technically complete. I also maybe should include responsive, probably to just make that. So now screen complete with technical UI, and then I'm going to say next wins on hold and done. So just to get those screens complete to the HTML CSS, so that it's complete to this level, which I think should be doable because I've started to get icons and stuff in there. And once I've done one of these then it's going to be pretty similar. But now, of course, I've got these different views, so I've got like a lot extract. So maybe it should be next wins each view. Yeah, let's do that. Next wins, expanded view, medium view. And then that will get me quite close to also having these other ones as well. Yeah, that's it. That's my goal for next week. Is there anything else related to anything? Just going to keep working on the day job and keep knocking shit out.
Cool.
Yep, that's it.
Enjoy the mountain air.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then until next time.
Okay. Ciao. One goal that we should have is to find a way of ending the show that's a wrap, but that's like our way of ending the show.